of SGBV in the 254, and we are with Dr. Kizzie Shako. She's a forensic practitioner, SGBV advisor, Office of the Chief Justice. Stephanie.
Yeah, so we've been talking about children and some adults getting abused, but let's move on to the seniors, the ones that are in nursing homes or under care and they're not able to take care of themselves. So how would you notice if one is going through an abuse? And then how would you go about taking care of that?
That's a tricky one because as a medical practitioner, I would come across them when they are presented to me. So many times in the forensic space, these survivors are presented to you usually by the police. Yeah. Because there's been a criminal case. But sometimes they can come to you through other avenues, through lawyers, advocates and social workers, children's officers. Yeah. So I've not myself come across, I know there's elder abuse, but coming across such a victim, I personally haven't. And one of the things that I have heard about is how difficult it is to understand what it is. There's many times they're not able to communicate effectively. Yeah. And that creates a problem because and then sometimes they have chronic conditions and people may easily dismiss what it is they're trying to say. When I have consulted with colleagues who have come across elder abuse, usually not in the sexual abuse setting, it's when they've told me that they came across these victims, usually women, who have been assaulted. They believe they've been assaulted by their sons many times. And they are brought to the hospital when they're already so sick that death is almost imminent, or they're not able to communicate. And so it's a cause for concern, but no one really knows what to do about it because you also have legal boundaries to abide by. So, sorry, I've not really answered your question.
I wanna read out some data. Now, the statistics, according to the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics, they're saying that 34% of Kenyan, this is the latest, by the way, that 34% of Kenyan women have experienced physical violence since the age of 16, with about 16% facing it in 2021. The same survey indicates that 14% of women aged between 15 to 49 have been subjected to sexual violence. Over 40% of women have experienced physical or sexual violence from their partners at least once during their lives. Right, so in the same period, 100 women, scratch that. Between September 2023 and December 2024, there were 7,107 reported cases of SGBV in Kenya. I think we talked about this, guys, last year. Yeah. And they're saying in the same period, 100 women were killed predominantly by individuals known to them, including intimate partners. Now that's with regards to femicide. But specifically on SGBV cases, what's the trajectory looking like? Are the numbers dipping, or things are looking bad? They're increasing. From your experience,
they just keep increasing. From my experience, they just keep increasing. I remember when I started out attending to these cases in 2012 or 2013. I went from what we would call the sexual violence, child abuse, and intimate partner violence and murder cases, complex cases or special cases. They went from 5 to about 15 or 20 in 2019. So you see the trajectory is just going up. And then the femicide figures that we were given last year were really horrific. I was mind blown, and to think that this is just the reported cases or the ones that are known is really very scary. So it's something that I think should be addressed as a matter of urgency, but I saw that the head of state has put together a task force to look into it, so I think that's a step in the right direction. Yeah,
it's interesting because the same Kenyan government has declared gender-based violence the nation's most pressing security threat. Yes. Are you surprised?
No, I'm just happy that finally it's being given the attention it deserves. Yeah. In 2015, I don't know if I tweeted or something, and I was saying this gender-based violence issues are a disaster. This is a national disaster, and we need to do something about it, because now, home has become the most dangerous place for women and girls to be. That doesn't mean boys and men don't go through violence. It's just that most violence is against women and girls. So that it's good that it's getting that attention, so that their appropriate resources can be allocated towards addressing it.
I know, JP, you want to jump in there, but real quick, maybe you can just make a comment about the GBV Courts in Kenya. I don't think many Kenyans are aware of these courts, and if at all they are actually operational, are they across the country? Are they just in the big cities? What exactly are their objectives, if you have knowledge of that?
Yes, so I believe it was in 2022, the Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome launched the first SGBV court in Coast, right, at Shanzu. So Shanzu Law Courts. One of the courts there is an SGBV court. And this is because of the numbers, especially in that region, the numbers are really, really high. The caseload is very high. And on top of high caseloads, you have, backlog, tremendous backlog. So a case can be in court for years on end, which again goes back to survivor fatigue, survivor frustration. They're like, it's okay, just forget about it. And the worst thing with cases not proceeding is you have perpetrators or suspects. You have suspects who are, if they are perpetrators, then they are released back into the public, which can be terrible. That was the idea, was to expedite the timeline within which cases will be heard, reduce the backlog, ensure that the SGBV courts address survivors with a survivor-centered and trauma-informed approach. So basically that was it. And so after that, in fact, I was part of the team that developed the SGBV court strategy on rolling out these courts. We have 12 courts at the moment across the country.
All right.
The idea is to you don't want to just launch courts everywhere without getting lessons learned, monitoring, evaluating, learning, improving, and all that. So the idea is to eventually grow, increase the courts across the country, but start with this small number for now. Whether the public is aware or not, I'm not very sure, but this has been discussed several times on various platforms. But there's one of the key strategic interventions is to ensure that the public is aware of the SGBV courts and the intentions of the SGBV courts.
I'm curious, by the way, because during for somebody to go and report a case, for example, and then probably it's going to end up in the SGBV court case. There's some people who are like, damn, man, I don't want to go because of my, I don't want my
stigma.
Stigma, and then I just don't want people to know about this because I do such and such. I'm in such a career space, for example. Is enough being done to protect, the privacy of victims or survivors during these court cases?
Yes, it is definitely one of the concerns that is being taken into consideration. So again, if you look into the strategy, which is available on the judiciary website, there's discussion around online sessions, discussion around having in the courts there should be one-way mirrors also to avoid the victims being seen, the victim seeing the perpetrator, because that's one of the biggest problems when especially children, when they see this perpetrator or alleged perpetrator, they just fall apart and everything. Having the sessions in camera, which means no one else is allowed in the room, and so on. So there's numerous interventions that are being put into place to ensure that survivors feel comfortable. But like you're saying, especially with the middle class and upper class, they are not likely to report these cases because of their societal status and all that.
Just to shed light, the story I was sharing with you guys offline. So you meet a girl, she's been raped, she's gone through something, and maybe you're just feeling a bit philanthropic and you want to help them. What are the best steps to do when you meet a victim of rape immediately, just to ensure that you're using the right channels?
Well, first of all, of course, you want to think about safety. So, are you also safe? In safety first. Safety always comes first. But if you are able to get to that survivor, you want to take them, like I said, a hospital, a medical facility is the best place to start.
Yeah.
And when you have like a child, I know some people may be tempted to take this child home.
Yeah.
You don't know this child, you don't know where they've come from. Sometimes that is the humane thing to do, but where you have the option of taking to a medical facility and then you just avail yourself to be with the child until a children's officer is brought on board or the police are informed, that would be the best course of action.
Right.
Yeah.
On the issue of custody, which is also some other thing that I've been thinking about, because sometimes, you find people who've been going through this gender-based violence at home, or, there's a problem between both parents and now they disagree, and now the courts are supposed to decide on who takes a parent. On most occasions, I've seen the court making rulings that are really, really terrifying. Like you hand over the child to a parent who is even going to inflict more pain to the child. So how do you think that's going to be handled in such cases? Should there be mental assessment for this for the person before they're given custody of the child? Just such a thing.
I agree. I've seen some outcomes that just leave you bewildered.
Exactly.
So again, some cases, we have the children's court and we also have the SGBV court. Now, depending on the dynamics of the case, they will end up in one of those. But truth be told, the way it's the 12 SGBV courts that were launched are not the only courts dealing with these cases. Every lower court and even high court in the country deals with these cases because it's too much. The caseload is too high, and it will be too traumatizing for a judicial officer to listen to these cases every day, all day.
Yeah.
And so right now, all courts are dealing with them. Again, now you've talked about terrifying judicial outcomes.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why training is so important on how to child development, disabilities, mental disabilities, not, what you need to know about this father, about the mother, what are their habits, looking deeper into their issues. So even social inquiry reports are sought after. So the more awareness there is, I know the judiciary is very keen on training all judicial officers on these issues, social issues, children issues, gender sensitivity issues, and trauma issues to avoid such problems.
Right.
And of course, they work with others. So they work with children's officers, probation officers. It's a huge network of people to ensure that the right outcome is arrived at.
Right.
Stephanie?
Okay, so let's talk about the Vja Kimia Foundation. So what impact has it had since it started, and where do you see the future of the foundation going?
Vja Kimia Foundation has what I have focused on most is what I was able to do most efficiently, and that is through a social media networking group where we address victims who require immediate assistance, who have had issues getting assisted in so for example, he has just raised a very good case where you come across a child who you don't know who this child is. Maybe they're injured, or it could be a woman who's been thrown out with her 4 children. These are some of the things we see. Or a man who has lost his children to his wife, who is known to be an alcoholic and is not the best caregiver. So that group brings together experts in various fields. We have people in the National Police Service, prosecutors. This is just giving back to the community. It's not anything formal. Prosecutors, you have children's officers, you have advocates, you have well-wishers. Then there are those who keep coming across these cases because of the work they do at the grassroots level. And so these cases, when they get to us, we now all do what we can within our networks and our spaces to assist them. There have been thousands of cases. I stopped counting at about 3,000.
Whoa.
Yeah. Wow. So, and we don't really talk about it. So, we just do it discreetly because instead of shouting it all over the place. Yeah, so that's the biggest thing that Vja Kimia has done. We've also, until COVID, we would regularly or quarterly visit children's homes. So a home for sexually abused children who have delivered. So these are mothers, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old mothers, and just encourage them to, this is not the end of the world. You can do it. We are here to help you. Try and get them funding for school and so on. Just to show them that someone cares, because many of them are a bit lonely. Some have been they're outcasts because of what happened, even though it was because of defilement. But that stopped around COVID because it became very difficult. And the other focus area is training, creating awareness. So sometimes I will just train with whichever criminal justice actor, not train but sensitize on issues around forensic evidence, science for justice. So that's where the science for justice comes from, because it's important for us to use forensic science and scientific facts, evidence, information when dealing with such cases rather than speculation. You'll be shocked how many people speculate. and I always think, what if the suspect is innocent? Let's not be, let's use science and stick to facts. And self-defense training, because self-defense training is great for boosting confidence and equipping the vulnerable with skills to protect themselves better. So that's what Vja Kimia does.
What are your hopes for forensic science when it comes to handling SGBV cases in the future of this country of ours? What do you hope to achieve? What do you hope the government will achieve, society will achieve in that forensic space?
Well, I did my master's in Australia at Victoria Institute of Forensic Medicine, and that was my happiest time because they are so established, well developed. They are very advanced in the different forensic sciences, and there are very very many. So what I would like to see in Kenya is us having our own Institute of Forensic Medicine, where we have various experts who deal with toxicology, pathology, clinical forensics, child abuse, pediatrics, and so on. That's where I think we should be heading, because forensic sciences play a very big role in the overall safety and peace in our society. You can learn a lot about the public, based on like now these criminal cases, these violent cases, you can learn a lot that can inform policies to improve our societal peace. So another thing forensic practitioners do, for example, is we don't only deal with gender-based violence, we deal with food, we deal with motor vehicle collisions, traffic medicine. There's so much more we can do, but in our setup, it's very limited to death investigations and gender-based violence. So there's a lot about what we can do that is just going down the drain.
So we have a long way to go.
We do, but we'll get there.
For sure. Kenya is very progressive.
Yes, Kenya is definitely
and we're so
progressive.
excited because we have at least individuals like you who are pioneering in that space.
Thank
we
you.
can learn a lot from you because you're very resourceful.
Thank you.
You know what? What message would you like to share with the survivors, policymakers, and the general public with regards to SGBV and access to justice as we wrap up this conversation?
Those are many different groups. But I think for survivors, it's just know that what has happened to you is not your fault. You're not alone. There are people to help you. There are organizations to help you. Just reach out. It's important to, for example, those who are in intimate partner violence situations, the most dangerous time is when you're trying to exit. So it's important to have an exit strategy. You can visit medical facilities like public hospitals or Gender Violence Recovery Center, MSF. They are very well equipped with information on how to address these issues and help you even come up with an exit strategy. Don't leave your children behind. Some women run away and leave their kids, and that's just terrible because now the children become the target. As for policymakers, I think we have a lot of machinery around the gender-based violence, but it's in silos. So the police do this, the judiciary does that, prosecution. There's numerous non-government organizations doing their different things, and development partners. I think if we could just bring that together, then we would be making better use of the resources available.
So for that one person who wants to get into forensic investigation, what would you tell them that they need in order to get into this field, especially here in Kenya?
Okay. Well, there are various aspects of forensic investigations. It would be good to ask yourself, what part do you like? So if, let's say, you're dealing with a death investigation, do you want to be the one collecting evidence at the scene? Or do you want to be because that would be now police officers and forensic scientists who work at the lab, like the government chemist lab. Do you want to be dealing with the body? If you want to deal with a human body, you have to do medicine or nursing, and then specialize specialize thereafter in forensic medicine, which I recommend should be done where that is well established, like in Canada and all these other countries. If you just need to know what it is you like. Do you like lab work? Do you want to be in the lab? Then you want to do forensic biology or forensic chemistry and all that. If you like the skeleton, you can do dentistry and then specialize in forensic anthropology or archaeology. And there are very many different principles. So it's look for a forensic scientist and sit with them and ask them all these questions, and then you will have better direction. Yeah.
So you can tell guys your social media.
Kizzie Shako everywhere. Instagram.
Kizzie _Shako.
Yes, _Shako on Instagram and X and Facebook. Yeah. Easy to find.
Exactly. Good stuff. Thank you so much for coming through right here on After Hours on Spice. I have learnt a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was fun. Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity to share information and just learn from each other.
For real. So guys, when we come back, we're cruising the internet. There's so much we're going to be talking about. I have one on William Kabogo. Yeah, today he was going through the vetting process.
Yeah.
I can say, I only have Panadol in my pocket.
Panadol. Sina cocaine ajui.
So we'll touch on that and many other stories right now. Dumb and Dumber, Lil Baby, Young Thug, and Future.
You play the best music.
We are Spice FM.
4 stones in the LDs at the bottom. GA certified before I was GIA certified. Mr. Emma Cash anytime you see me, On feet records, play a duck to catch a duck, Trigger.